Hey everybody, you're watching the Mike Nelson Show. I want to thank everybody who's already subscribed to the channel. We have over 500 subscribers around the world. If you haven't subscribed already, make sure to subscribe right now. Today I got a very special guest. I got Chris Thompson, legendary guitarist and singer. How you doing today, Chris?
I'm doing good. Thank you very much.
All right, so my first question that I do to most guests is, where did your musical journey begin, Chris? When did it all start off for you?
Wow. For me, I think probably singing in the choir, the church choir. I think that's what got me hooked with, those kind of hymns, I suppose you call them. And then I heard skiffle music. When I went back, I lived in New Zealand. When I went back, I was born in England, went to New Zealand to live, and then went back to England again. Skiffle music had just started, so I started listening to that, and my aunt bought me a ukulele kind of thing, and I started learning all those old style songs, the skiffle songs, "Hang Down Your Head," Tom Dooley, and all that kind of stuff. And it just went on from there. I just was always interested in playing and singing, and but I guess that's pretty much where it started.
And how was life for a musician in New Zealand back in those days?
Um, well, my life in New Zealand as a musician was pretty good, really. I mean, I was working once I got a gig, which is playing in a nightclub. It was like 6 nights a week. You know, I actually at one point was playing from 7:30 at night till 10:30 in one club, then moving into town and playing from 11 till 4 in the morning. That was 7 nights a week. So for me, it was pretty good. Learning was a big learning curve for me. We had to learn. It's no original songs really. We all played covers and played all sorts of songs, but it was all covers. So I was learning how to sing all that stuff, and it was a great, it was a great way to grow up with music, was to sing all those songs and learn them all. It was a big learning experience for me, which I enjoyed very much.
And out there in New Zealand, was there like a rock and roll scene going on already, or was it kind of a start? How was it out there for the
Well, I
rock
think
music?
it was all cover bands, and you were what kind of cover bands? There was a kind of Rolling Stones kind of cover band. There was a Beatles kind of playing Beatles music, and Herman's Hermits and all those early '60s kind of bands. And the band I had was a kind of Blood, Sweat and Tears, Chicago, Aussie Beast. So we had our roots in we had horns, we had Saxon. So we were that kind of a band, and there was lots of other bands, and there was room for everybody. It was quite amazing, really, when I look back on it now. It was there was lots of work. We all had our own style. People would come to see us. There was clubs in Auckland, there was clubs in Hamilton, there was clubs around everywhere, and we kind of swapped around and played everywhere.
Now, for someone who hasn't been to England or New Zealand, how much different are both countries? Are they really different to live in, or how is the culture change? For both of those countries?
Well, when I left New Zealand and went back to England, where I wanted to get back into um, you know doing something on the music scene that wasn't just in New Zealand, because that you couldn't keep on doing that. Although you could keep on, a lot of my friends did keep on doing, but I wanted to go and do something else. So when I went back to England, it was very weird. There was a 3-day week. The government, it was a Labour government, and money was tight, electricity was not happening, and I kind of walked into that looking for something to do, music to do, looking for a club to play in or something. But it was so totally different. It was just bands writing music, their own music, and trying to get record deals. And it was very exciting, but very difficult as well, and so different from New Zealand. It was the weather for a start, but it was just a totally different climate in that country. You had to work, you had to write your own songs, you had to do auditions with record companies and try and make some tapes and you know get a record deal. That was what it was. I guess you're talking just about music, right?
Yeah, music and life in general must be very different both countries.
Well, life in general was very, very different. You know, I had to go and get a job. I couldn't find a music job. So, you know, like I said, the country was in upheaval. The Labour government had, there was a 3-day week. So you only had electricity 3 days a week. And you know, it was quite down really compared with New Zealand, which was a very up culture.
So how did you eventually end up on the Manfred Band's Earth Band?
Well, I was looking for jobs, and there was a newspaper called the Melody Maker, and they had advertisements in bands looking for singers, guitarists, or whatever. And I answered the ad saying, "Band with record deal, needs singer, guitar player, no time wasters. Send, you know, bring a cassette to 490 Old Kent Road." So that's what I did. Took a cassette and handed in. I didn't know who it was. They didn't say who it was. So I handed in a cassette of me singing, which was just something I'd recorded in New Zealand with the band I was in. I was lucky to have it. 30 minutes or so. Anyway, I took it down, gave it to them. And it was a long journey down to there and back to where I was living. And I walked into the place where I was staying, and there was like a payphone for everybody. And I left my phone up, of course. And the phone was ringing. I picked it up, and the person said, "Is that you singing on the tape?" I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, can you come and see me?" I said, "When?" He said, "Well, now would be great." So I had to make the journey all the way back, and I went to Manfred's house. And of course, as soon as he opened the door, I knew it was him. And, you know, we had a cup of tea and we sat around. He was on the piano, just playing the piano and saying, "This is the song I want to do." And he wasn't a good singer, but he could sing. So he was saying, "I want to do this song. Bah, 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 bah. What do you think?" I said, "Sure, I could give it a try." So I sat there actually learning and playing. And I went back to his house every day for a week. And then I did an audition with the band. And I don't think he ever told me I was in the band. I don't think he ever said, "Right, you've got the job." I think he just said, "Well, we're going to start paying you £30 a week. Is that okay?" You know, for me, that was fantastic. So, and that was a story. Then we did some whole bunch of concerts in America for nothing to with the record. Before I made a record, we went to America, did some gigs. And from a young boy from Hamilton, New Zealand, with a population of like 90,000 people, to be going to LA and playing, you know, Philadelphia Spectrum, 30,000 people inside. It was a huge, giant step for me. Fantastic, lots of fun, unbelievable.
So that
So
was the
that's how
first,
I got the gig anyway.
and that was the first time you'd actually toured like on a big commercial tour, maybe, you know, that was like you mentioned in a big arena tour.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we played in a club, and here I was playing, as I said, the Philadelphia Spectrum. It was the second or third gig we did.
Wow.
Pretty wild, pretty wild.
Now, the first album that you recorded with the band was The Roaring Silence, the band's most successful album. Do you think you guys had something special when you were making that album?
um, Actually, it was like all albums. I mean, I'd never made an album before. I'd never done anything. So for me, it was like practicing these songs and trying to get my part right. So, you know, it fitted right in you know, with the rest of the song and for the record. And, you know, it was very difficult. I loved singing the songs. I thought the songs were good. I mean, obviously, Blinded by the Light was what we were concentrating on as a single, first single. But there was lots of other songs. There was a Singing the Dolphin Through, had a lovely saxophone solo on it. And there was some really, really nice things on it that I think I looked back on it afterwards and realized there was something special about that record. I think at the time, the first time I was making a record, I found it difficult and hard, and I had to really be on the top of my game to, you know, Manfred, somebody that had made, you know, lots of pop hit records, and in the 60s, he knew what he was doing. And so I didn't know what I was doing. I was just doing what I was told pretty much. But I learned and I learned. And as I said, I think I looked back and then I saw that actually there was something special going on. And I think it was the band and Manfred and my voice, I think. I think that was what it was when I look back on it.
Now, did you guys play some of these songs on that tours you guys did before recording the album?
Actually, we did. We did. We played Blinded. It didn't go down well. It didn't. It was funny. We were playing stuff from the album before, and the band was pretty much a prog rock band with lots of solos and everything. So we're only doing 6 or 7 or 8 songs and a lot of solos and stuff, which I also found very difficult. And I had to learn those songs. But that was such great fun that it didn't matter to me. But yeah, we played Blinded and we played Mighty Quinn, I think, the version of Mighty Quinn, which ended up on the next album, I think. But
Now, was Manfred a big Bruce Springsteen fan? Because you, of course, guys covered a couple songs from them, and you know, with the Earth band. Was he always a big fan of Bruce?
well, no, not really. He was just a fan of great songs, and somebody from Philly actually sent a record guy that we knew, Ed Sharkey, his name was, from WMMR in Philadelphia. He sent the Greetings from Asbury Park, Bruce's first record. He sent it to Manfred and said, I think there's some songs on here you could cover, because Manfred was famous for covering Bob Dylan songs. So I didn't even hear Bruce's version of Blinded by the Light before I sang it. I mean,
Wow.
that sounds stupid, but I was just singing what Manfred had kind of sung to me. I had to figure, like I said, he didn't have he had a very Bob Dylan voice, actually. Anyway, so I had to interpret that. Yeah. But he wasn't a fan. I actually became a huge Bruce fan and still am. Yeah, while we were on tour in America, on days off, I was able to see him in all sorts of different places. Fantastic. I mean, the first time I saw him, I think, was in Canada. And yeah, I'm a huge Bruce fan, huge Bruce fan. But Manfred, I don't know whether he's a Bruce Springsteen fan, but he loved that song, and Spirits in the Night, of course, he liked that as well from the same record. And For You, that was a song that I loved, and we did just a piano voice version of that. That was on the first or second record. I can't remember. Did we do anything else? I don't know. But anyway.
Now, recently I read an article from the Huffington Post where it ranked the most misheard song lyrics of all time. Blind by the Light came in at number 1. Any thoughts on that?
Well, I've got some positive and some negative thoughts on it, I suppose. Yeah, we changed the lyric because I didn't want to sing what was it? What was the original lyric? It was cut loose like a goose. That was the original lyric. And I didn't really want to sing that. I thought, I don't want to sing cut loose like a goose. So we just tried to get into the vibe of the song, and we wrote wrapped up like a deuce. Now, because of some technical issues, it sometimes sounded like wrapped up like a douche, which is another whole other thing people talked about. But nobody knew what the lyric was. And so my thought is that people called up all the time to radio stations in those days. What's that douche song, or whatever they said, play it again. And I think that it kind of, it gave itself the old gray whistle test. People just were whistling it, and because it was always on the radio, people play that song again. What's the lyric? And it just became in people's heads. And so that's the very positive thing about it. The negative thing about it was that douche nearly took the song off radio. People thought it was wrapped up like a douche, and whole of Midwest decided they weren't going to play the song. So Warner Brothers sent Manfred and I on a 52-date radio tour to tell them that it was not douche, it was deuce.
Wow.
And of course, the next question is, what is a deuce? So we had to come up with, a a little deuce coupe, it's a two-seater car, or it's a card or something, whatever. So I think it was instrumental in the song being played so much on the radio. People still, when I was living in LA, which is, I don't know, say the 90s or something like that, I used to listen to KLOS all the time because I loved that radio station.
Yeah.
I had a great stereo in my car, and I'd wind it up and drive, to wherever I was going. And they played it one morning, and they said, okay, call us on, 0812, blah, 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 if anybody knows what that lyric is. So I thought, shit, I'm going to stop. So I stopped at the garage, put some money in, dialed the number and everything. And the guy said, yeah. I said, I'm ringing to tell you what the lyric is. The guy went, sorry, man, competition's over. Put the phone.
That's
So
funny,
nobody ever got to hear the singer telling him what it was.
wow. Now, you guys, after this album, The Roaring Silence, did you guys do probably the biggest tour in the band's history after this album? Because of the success of
Well, in
Blinded by the Light.
America,
In America,
that's true. In America, we did. But in Europe, we actually gradually built up with 2 more albums, and the third one being Angel Station, which that was the biggest selling record in Europe and the biggest selling tour that we did. But in America, yeah, we played with everybody. We were out for, I think, 11 months or something, touring with everybody, all my heroes, all the people I loved, in my youth in New Zealand. We played with them all, and all the people that were current at the time. We played with Bob Seger night after night after night. We played with the Cars. We played with ELO. We played with Edgar Winter. We played with, did I say Bob Seger? We played with Bob. And anyway, so it was the biggest in Europe, in America. We never really recaptured that because we didn't have another single that did anything really, except for the 1984 Olympics. We had a hit when it was in LA, song called Runner. And then we did some other gigs.
Now, do you think that the success in America didn't continue because you guys were playing more of a progressive rock, jazz fusion type of rock, and out here in the United States, of course, the music was kind of moving away from that? Do you guys think that's why the success didn't continue out here in the States?
I actually think it was because we didn't have another song. We didn't have a song that had all the ear candy that Blinded did, and I just think that was it. And I mean, I think lots and lots of people played our stuff, played the second record and stuff, but it was nothing for people to hang on to that was Manfred Band's Earth Band, because there was nothing like Blinded by the Light that captured that Manfred Band's Earth Band feel. Don't ask me why it did in Europe. In Europe, we just kept building and building, as I said. I don't know. Who knows?
So how was the 70s for a musician? I wasn't around. Was that the golden era for rock and roll and, for musicians coming up like yourself? You were young in the 70s. Do you think that was the best time to come up as a musician?
Absolutely. Without a doubt. I think the 60s got everybody, it got the whole thing moving. But I think as far as rock was concerned, the 70s in America was absolutely the best. Best bands, best venues, best audiences, best songs. I mean, best songs is such, hit a monstrous songs after monstrous songs, monstrous bands. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely the best era.
Now, you've mentioned in other interviews that working with, Manfred Mann was a lot of work. You guys used to rehearse a lot. Was it very difficult being in that band, playing, very difficult music at times and, the tight rehearsals and all that?
To be honest with you, I found it very difficult, very difficult, very difficult. Yeah. In a lot of ways, working with Manfred, I found very difficult because he was just never satisfied with pretty much anything. In some ways, he was never satisfied with anything. He was always searching for the vibe, as he called it, searching for that. And I found it difficult because sometimes he would just keep going with something and it would move away from what it was when we started. And, and I wanted to I always wanted things to be as live as they possibly can, like Roaring Silence. You know, we played it as a band. You know, we were in the studio together. We rehearsed a lot, and we tried to get it as tight as possible. Same with the second record, but Manfred just got a little bit more control, and yeah. And then at the end, after the second album, two of the guys left the band, so we were using kind of sideman, so to speak, and I think it lost the band vibe, and I found that very difficult. I found it difficult. So the answer is yes, it was difficult for me.
Let's fast forward to Angel Station, 1979. In the album sleeve notes, it said that this was going to be your last album, but it wasn't. What's the story
No.
behind that? Why did you end up coming back to the band?
Well, I kept coming back to the band because Manfred kept asking me. He couldn't find another singer, and that's basically the truth of it. I wanted to leave because I wanted to do something, as I just said before, that was live and more vital and everything. So I formed another band, and learned that it wasn't. He still wasn't easy. But I kept going back to Manfred because he needed me, I guess, and it needed me on the tours, and they just happened to coincide with not coincide. I happened to be available to do his stuff when my band was either doing something else or whatever. So that's the truth of it. He just kept asking me back.
Now you had your own band, Night. Was that more of a solo project, or how would you consider the band Night? Was that something like you mentioned you wanted to have like a band where everybody writes together? Was that Night then? The band you
That's
had
what it
out
was
here in
supposed
LA?
to. That's what it was supposed to be. It was my solo. No, it was a solo thing from me, but it was a band. We all tried to write together. We came to America. We had Richard Perry producing us. But we didn't. We just didn't have the great songwriters. We weren't great songwriters. We weren't experienced. We weren't. So Richard looked around for outside songs, and that was fun too. I mean, we played with so many different kind of musicians to try and get the right feel and thing for the band. But the problem was, it was a girl singer and myself, and we needed to have identity from the two of us, which the band had when we started, but that was because we were doing covers, and we had worked on it for a long time. When we came to America, Richard wanted us to do more one girl song, one boy song, and try and kind of do, I don't know, like Fleetwood Mac or something like that. And it just didn't work. We had the first kind of hit, Hot Summer Nights, which did really well. And we toured with the Doobie Brothers, and that went very well as well. Band was good live. But then the second single came out, which was a song called If You Remember Me, which was me singing and bore absolutely no resemblance to Hot Summer Night at all. And radio found, who is Night? I thought they had a girl singer, that kind of stuff. So I found out the life was tough, even away from away from Manfred Mann's Earth Band. It was tough as well. I learned a lot of shit during that time, I can tell you.
Now playing with Night, you guys were playing in a different, era, a different type of rock or different kind of music. Was that music you were interested in, or was it something that you were just doing, in order to make it?
No, no, it was music. It was music that I loved. I loved that kind of LA, laid back LA kind of song. I don't know how to explain it. Yeah, kind of LA band. Yeah, that and like Fleetwood Mac. I love Fleetwood Mac. I mean, I like that a lot. I love the Doobie Brothers, although they're more kind of, they've got their own definite style and stuff. But with Michael McDonald, that kind of thing. No, I love that. Great songs, and with a good band, and I think the album was a good album. I think it was good, and a lot of people liked it. But like I said, it didn't connect on the radio, and you need that in America.
You even had a Michael McDonald on this album, right? He played piano on one of the tracks.
Yeah, Michael did. Yeah, ain't that peculiar? He sang on it as well. Yeah.
Oh yeah, wow.
And then I ended up working with the Doobies, or the band did, for 9 months, and they've remained very good friends, all of them. So that was a very special time too, of course.
Now you continue playing with the Manfred Mann's Earth Band throughout the '80s. How was it like playing in the '80s? With course, music was in another. You guys, was changing rock music and all that progressive rock, jazz fusion was kind of dying out. How was it
Yeah.
like playing during that era? Playing live and with the audiences maybe getting a little smaller.
Well, we were still looking for an identity that would work in the 80s, I think. Much more of a rock band, really, is what we were working on. Tried to do some live tracks. Um, Everything all the kind of live gigs and the playing and the band. It was always great fun. And we still did pretty big tours with Manfred Mann's Earth Band. We were still playing to 15,000 people a night, and trying new songs out, but still play the old song like all the bands did. You try to move in with 2 or 3 new songs, but play the old songs in the to the audience. So that's what they wanted to hear, and that kind of worked live. But it was a deterioration in the amount of radio play we got, because other people were taking over. Punk music was coming. There was other focuses for radio to focus their music style on, and radio is changing too, I think, drastically. I think radio is there was BBC One. They had there was hit radio, and they wouldn't play any kind of rock hits like Blinded and stuff like that. They wouldn't do that. It was all pop kind of music. So radio changed. Everything changed really in the 80s.
You got to appear on many albums with some legendary artists such as the Dewey Brothers, Elton John, Alan Parsons. Anything that stands out? Maybe a favorite album or favorite moment working with all these legendary artists.
Yeah, well, one of the things I really enjoyed was, well, obviously working with Elton. I had a good time working with Elton. That was fun. I did an album with him as a backup singer, which was, something I hadn't really done a lot of before. So it was great working with Elton, and he's a lovely guy, and I had a really nice time. And then we did some gigs for his football foundation with Stevie Wonder, and I can't remember who else did it. Somebody else did it as well, and Kiki D, of course. And so that was great fun. So those times with Elton were, they'll be in my memory, those ones. But I think when I was working with Alan Parsons, we played, I made a record with Alan, and then we toured England, America, South America. And that was really fun, singing those fantastic Alan Parsons songs, but doing a couple of new things as well. And we also played a song that I was involved in writing called "You're the Voice." We did that with live as well, So that was really a lot. I think that stands out. And I think for me, as a singer, I think I was singing my very best on those Alan Parsons tours. I think my voice really suited those songs. There was not a lot of pressure, but is the song good enough? Is it that? I mean, the songs were great. And then I did one album with Alan, and we had a kind of a mini American hit called "Turn It Up." And, we played "You're the Voice," which was which was a hit everywhere in the world except for America. But, so that I think that probably stands out.
Now, talk to me about your solo career, which you've had many great albums. Anything that stands out for the viewers, maybe that they should check out. It's kind of hard sometimes to find your music out here in America, but with the internet, any songs or maybe albums we should maybe check out?
I think if people are looking to hear me sing, I think the Alan Parsons live record, I think, and Try Anything Once. I think those are 2 albums people should check out. I don't know. I've made a couple of solo albums in the last. I did a compilation of a whole bunch of stuff, and I did an album called Toys and Dishes, which I really like. I don't know whether people can get that in America or not. It was, it's a Chris Thompson record.
Now, you just wrapped up your farewell tour. How was that?
Well, it's with my band of 21 years. We played together for 21 years. they're Norwegian guys, fantastic musicians. Live wise, I think that was the best band I ever had. They were fantastic, and we did some great shows. And but as I said when we started, I'm 75, so I thought it was about time to stop being out on the road. It was very emotional, great fun. I did a live album, which I will mix shortly and put out on the internet. So if people want to look for that, it'll be Chris Thompson and the Mads Eriksen band, and that's live, and that has really a lot of songs that have never been on. We did some covers of the early Manfred Mann's Earth Band songs, a couple of those, and a couple of my songs, and stuff that has not been on a live album before. So I think it's about 2 hours and 15 minutes. That's how long our show was, 2 hours and 15 minutes. So I think the album will be 2 hours and 15 minutes. So 15 minutes. So it's very rocky, and the band is amazing. Fantastic drummer and great bass player. It really is, and great guitar player. It really is it will be a great record. I've been listening to some of the takes and stuff and just figuring out what to do with it all. So, but it'll be out this year, early this year, I think.
Looking forward to it. Now that touring is off the table, would you record new music at all ever? Do you see yourself recording music?
I'm in the middle of probably my last album, because I've got some things I need to write, physically write. My life I've done some amazing traveling before I was 12 years old. I went with my father to New Zealand, and then back again because he died, then back again in three different environments from 1955 till 60, 68 or something like that. So I've got some writing to do, but I'm going to finish this last album, and my wife and I have just finished a musical. I've been writing it since 2004. It's from a story that I've had in my head for a long time, but my wife Inga and I, we've been writing the script, and I wrote 24 pieces of brand new music, a lot of 24 songs, I think, new songs. And in fact, I was talking today with our agent, and it looks like we did actually put it on, the musical. We did actually put it on just before COVID, but we weren't able to continue. But so we've been rewriting the script, and the music is done, and we hope to get that on the stage. I imagine that would be 2024. I can't see it being this year, but yeah. So that was. But I will write one more album. I'm about 5 songs in now, about 4 or 5 songs left to go. So yeah.
What are your thoughts
I will always write songs and always try and record them, because that's what I've done the whole of my life. So
what are your thoughts on today's music scene with streaming and people? It's really hard for musicians to make money now, right? Musicians can't sell albums like before. Radio's changed a lot. What are your thoughts on today's scene?
Well, I'm glad that I'm not trying to get a band together and go out or be a singer-songwriter or something. I think it's so difficult. But on the other, so difficult to become, get to a record label. There aren't any record labels. As you said, nobody buys. Only Adele and Beyonce. That's it pretty much. And Bruce, of course.
Yep.
And but even his record sales have come, way down. And yeah, so I don't know. But on the other side, if you are a singer-songwriter, you can put your stuff up on the internet and people will hear it. I don't know how many people will hear it, but I think people do hear it. And but I just, I find it, David Crosby died.
Yeah, yesterday.
Today.
Yeah, well, yesterday
today
for me.
For me this morning. And my wife called me and told me that this morning. She was on her way to work, and she called me and said, David Crosby died. And we both, we both said, well, where is the new one? Where is the replacement for that guy? Where's the Bowie replacement? Where's all the people that have died, all those incredible musicians and players and, industry giants? Where are the replacements of them? I know they've got Harry Styles. For me, Harry Styles is the best of that lot, really. For me, I like his songs, and of course, what's that girl? I love her, the young girl.
Billie Eilish.
Yeah, she's fantastic, and yeah. So there are people out there, but it's not a big wide spectrum of it, really, and that's sad. But on the other hand, it can't be like it was. It has to change, and it has changed. Phones have changed everything. My kids, they they know 30 seconds of all the old songs that we know and love. Me know and love. They know 30 seconds of those, the hook, this bit, that, from TikTok or whatever. And it's sad they don't know a song all the way through. They go on to the next one, and they're just listening all day and flicking through. It's taken, I don't know, to me, it's taken the joy out of discovering something, or everything is just there for you to whatever you want. It's there, and and then it's gone, and then there's something else there. It's really, really terrible. I mean, Jeff Beck died. It's in the news just, maybe half a day.
Yeah.
And then it's gone. It moves on to something else. It's just incredible.
Last question here. Any advice for young musicians out there?
Well, just disregard everything I said about it being difficult, and, believe in yourself, write those songs, keep going, get better, work hard. And there's always a possibility that, you'll find the song that launches your career. And it's absolutely possible. You have to work hard. You have to be lucky. You have to be good, but just keep going.
All right.
That's what I was.
I want to thank you, Chris, for coming on the show.
Well, thank you, Mike. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for watching, everybody.